reviews, discussions, and theories about films in horror, sci-fi, and genre. This is the Horror Deconstruction. Like, share, and subscribe to hear more.
What's up, everybody? It's the Horror Deconstruction. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, most likely on YouTube. Give us a like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell icon. Hit that thumbs up with yours comp for 31 Days of Horror in October. What today's film is Black Death 2010. Set during the time of the first outbreak of the bubonic plague in England, a young monk is given the task of learning the truth about reports of people being brought back to life in a small village, directed by Christopher Smith, written by Dario Poloni and Christopher Smith, starring Eddie Redmayne, Sean Bean, and Karis Van Houten. So, I'd heard about this film for a long time. I'd seen the poster looks pretty badass. It's just Sean Bean, or somebody playing Sean Bean's character, in silhouette as he looks down this cave. I wasn't sure if this was an outright horror film. Doesn't seem like it's an outright horror film, but it is sort of one of those historical films that are brutal and has horror aspects to it. There is sort of a weird magical aspect to this film, if you will. I don't know. It's more based in reality than any of that. But this film does deal with the plague itself, and I had misthought about it. I thought there were zombies in this movie. I wasn't sure about anything with this movie. I was glad I did see it, though, because it has the awesome Sean Bean in it. I was very surprised to see Eddie Redmayne, who is an Oscar winner, I believe, and he's playing Osmond. He's playing a monk, and this is right at the beginning of the century where the bubonic plague wiped out millions of people, almost wiped out half of the planet. And well, it's not like we're dealing with anything like that right now. But anyway, it's these priests. Little Eddie Redmayne is he's doing something that's not for the love of God. He's got himself a little sweetie pie on the side. And he feels very conflicted about it because he is a young man. He does have carnal feelings in his age, and it's actually for a woman that's of appropriate age and not a child. So, surprise in this movie. And he's telling this woman wants to leave because this plague is just sweeping through, and he had just been, I think, quarantined for a couple days. They were making sure that he wasn't sick himself, and it just reminds you of how basically exposed people were to these types of furies of natural elements of just sickness and stuff like that. And while he's telling his girl, his little squeeze, he's like, listen, he's telling her to leave to save her own ass, because they're gonna just start looking around and start chopping people up and just quarantining them and blaming them for being scabs on God's people or stuff like that. So he tells her to get the hell out of here. She says, listen, I'll wait for you in such and such place, and if you don't, then I'm going to just keep moving on with my life, unfortunately. And he's put in a situation where he's like, shit, man, I love this woman, but I can't turn my back on the church because it's done so much for him, I guess. And in comes Sean Bean, who needs somebody to escort him and his crew of swordsmen because they've been sent by the higher ups in the church, because the church and the army are, I guess, pretty arm in arm together, not to be repetitive of that phrasing. And Eddie Redmayne's character Osmond sees this as an opportunity. It kills two birds with one stone. He gets to see his girl and get the hell out of town. And Sean Bean plays Ulrich, he's very upstanding, I guess, man of God character. He's a very he's a no bullshit type of dude. He's basically the same as Ned Stark, I guess. He plays Ned Stark character again, all over again. And so Ulrich has these group of ragtag some of them are ex-criminals, some of them are just regular dudes. John Lynch, I gotta say, is Wolfstein. He's pretty great as the second banana, and second guy in charge. He seems to be the thoughtful guy out of the crew. Not that Ulrich isn't a thinking man, but he's more of an action man, while Wolfstein is the sweetness before the blade kind of character. And they have all these ragtag dudes that are working with him and stuff like that. So they decide to go on and look for this certain area where they hear that there's a certain town where people are not dying from the plague, and they believe that these people might be the ones that are enchanted by the devil, and they're free of plague. So as they exist, the plague exists, and it's not affecting them; it's affecting everybody else. So maybe they're doing heretical activities as praying to other, gods or demons and stuff like that, and keeping themselves out of the crosshairs of this sickness. And so they believe, Sean Bean's character believes that they need to hack these people to hell and find the witch that might be leading them all. So this is more of a dark historical, not adventure. Because when you watch the movie itself, you can see there's a budget to this film. The movie is chock full of great actors. Everybody in this film is a great actor. The production-wise, it's fine. Before I'd even seen this film, I thought it was a bigger film than it was because I'd been confusing with another sort of medieval film. I can't think of the name of that one. But I'd been confusing it with a bigger film. And it's not. It's pretty much a small film dealing with characters. And it's not like it's a character study film. It's sort of a MacGuffin film. It's like get to point A, point B, point C, and that figure stuff out, figure out what's going on, why this town is nobody's dying in this town of disease and stuff like that. And it's interesting in the end. I don't want to spoil the ending, but it's interesting how religious people versus people who don't believe in religion, and not that these other people are like atheists, but they kind of see how these religious dogmas and these states run by religion can be corrupted just like anything else. And like, who are we really voting for? Rooting for? Wow, that was a slip. But in this film, it's ambiguous on who you're rooting for. Are we really rooting for Ulrich and Osmond? I guess Osmond you're really rooting for because he's the main character. But boy, there is a big twisty dark twistaroo at the end of this film. It's like a very nihilistic movie, very dark movie, and the introduction of the other town, and there are like mustache twirling enemies in this movie, and Karis Van Houten is, I guess she's the house mom of this town, and she's the one that's like the closest thing to a doctor, where she's like healing people and stuff like that, and it becomes a little bit questionable, like how does she know this? And because back then they wouldn't really let women study and do many things, what I mean? Karis Van Houten, she was also from Game of Thrones. She plays Melisandre, the evil, I guess the red sorceress. I forgot what they call her, the fire sorceress or something like that. She's really good in this one. She is likable, but I don't want to give it up. What's going on with this film? Is it graphically gory? Not really. It is a brutal film, as in what happens in it. It's super brutal, that ending and the reveal and everything. So that's worth it. I wouldn't say it's a fantastic movie. It's a very good movie. It's very dark. It's very nihilistic. It can be a little bit depressing. It's not like a feel bad movie where you're like, oh boy, I wish I didn't see it. But there's certainly parts of it where this is not a fun time for anybody. This is the Middle Ages. This is like death and destruction everywhere. It's just savagery, and you just see the corruption of people. And I think that's what worked for this type of film. It's a solid little, historical horror drama / adventure. I wish there was a little bit more with the wrecking crew. I guess the guys, the knights, because they could have done a little bit more with them. If they added like a half an hour more of hacking and slashing and seeing them work together as a crew as opposed to being cannon fodder, I think that would be great. There's only really one big battle in this movie, and it's not even a big battle. It's just sort of a skirmish between two groups of psychopaths. And I think that the ending is a little bit long drawn out, and it's sort of an ending where it could have gone the way of, say, the Green Inferno. The Green Inferno, I thought it was just going to be people running away from and fighting cannibals, but the whole time, the whole latter half of the film was just them sort of in jail, waiting to be eaten, and then you just watching them get tortured. And that's not even happening in here. It's not the movie that I thought it was going to be, and it's not that it's super disappointing, but I think they had a lot of potential to do a lot more with this film. It's just they just didn't have the budget for it. But I think for what it is, it's a nice little historical dark film. It's certainly not fun for anyone, but it certainly is. They cared enough when they made it for the budget that they had. So I would give it a 6.5 out of 10. Does Sean Bean get out of this one? We'll see. This has been The Hard Deconstruction. Thank you for listening.